Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the SLDC Board of Directors meeting being held at 8 a.m. on September 19th, 2024. Can I have a roll call to bring the meeting to order?
Sure. Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Kara Spencer, Director Gilbert,
Here.
Director McBride,
Present.
Director Sean Spencer,
Present.
Director Reed,
Here.
and Chair Richardson.
Present. I also want to recognize Alderwoman Clark Hubbard as well as Alderwoman Kara Spencer. Can you all just say present so we can put your presence in the record?
Present.
And Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, I don't think we heard you. I did hear Alderwoman Kara Spencer.
Now?
Okay, a little bit. You're a little low, but we can hear you. Thank you. Okay, good. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the August 15, 2024 regular scheduled board meeting and the August 22nd, 2024 special board meeting that was held both via Zoom, but we also had some directors in the office. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Sean Spencer.
Second, Clark Hubbard.
Have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer.
Alderwoman, I don't think we've heard you. Are you there?
I think she said aye. I'll move on. Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Did we lose Director McBride?
Aye.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Director Sean Spencer,
Aye.
and Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all present voting aye, the motion passes to approve the minutes of the August 15, 2024 regular scheduled board meeting and the August 22nd, 2024 special board meeting. Before we bring the resolutions before the board today, I wanted to provide a quick update on the North St. Louis grant program, as there will be several resolutions that will be brought forth today in regards to the program. And then also wanted to provide some clarity around a few things that have been circulating throughout the community as well as the press. So the first thing I want to do is to share my screen, give you all a quick update on the program, if I can get my screen together here. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So what you'll see here on the dashboard that we will publish online, post this meeting pending approval on the respective resolutions from the board, is an update on the various programs. As you all recall, there are several programs within the North City Grant initiative. One is the capacity building grant. As a reminder, these grants were really aimed at providing capacity building in the amounts of $2,500 to $5,000 to businesses as they were getting technical assistance, other support to actually complete the applications, but also to ensure that they were getting any resource that was necessary for them to help with any bookkeeping, any other technical assistance support to help them operate their business as part of this overall initiative. We have a stabilization grant. So on the capacity building, we have funded to date $687,500 from that program. Again, that was a first come, first serve. It was as long as they complete the courses, they receive access to this capacity building grant. The stabilization grant was really for those businesses that were looking to stabilize their operations, their ongoing operations within North St. Louis City. And we have 75 businesses that have been awarded about $1.125 million that have been awarded, but funded to date $1,005,000. And again, these are stabilization grants. On the expansion grants, I'll actually pass it to Lorna to give a quick overview of the expansion grants as a reminder. But as an update, the number of businesses that have been awarded expansion grants are 185 businesses. We have awarded approximately 6.5 million, but only 765,000 of that 6.5 million has been allocated. So Lauren, do you want to give a quick update on the expansion program and how you all made determinations on the funding amounts for the expansion awards?
Yeah, so on the in the expansion program, we received about 273 applications. We funded 185. The program is for operational expansion only. It's eligible under the grant more than just for businesses who suffered a hardship. But if you're a business located in a QCT and are presumed to be disproportionately impacted, the grant funds are available for operational expansion. So that was what we used to create this program within the North City grant. So they could give themselves or their employees, they can increase their salaries, provide health insurance benefits, increase their benefits, provide daycare services for their employees. So there are different things under that umbrella that they could use operational expansion for. We allocated initially $6 million for the program because we received so many applications. We came up with a methodology on trying to fund as many businesses as possible. We based the funding award on the number of employees that they have. So if they have 1 to 5 employees, they will receive $25,000, 6 to 10, 50, 11 to 20, 75, 21 to 100, 100, and then over 100 employees, 125. On the 1 to 5 employees, we know we have the owner, right, that we've been working with. So we know we have at least 1 employee for all the businesses. So their self-attestation of 1 to 5 employees is enough for them to receive the $25,000 grant. Any grant over $25,000, we are then requiring payroll support for the end of 2023 to show how many full-time equivalent employees. So the businesses might have a lot of part-time people, but their hours worked in 2023 have to be full-time equivalent hours, which is basically around 2,000 hours a year.
Thank you, Lorna. And as it relates to the community enhancement programs, we had a facade program, again, that was really focused on ensuring that commercial businesses that were seeking to improve their facades, we were awarding up to $100,000 for those facade repairs. As part of the viability assessment and site assessments, we have conducted site visits through our consultants, Morgan Graves, as well as NDC, to ensure that businesses, whether they are a commercial business providing retail support or a community amenity, a grocery store, that the business actually exists as a commercial business. We also understand there are some businesses that operate out of a home base. And that counts towards, operational expansion. However, for the facade program and also for the community enhancement programs, the brick and mortar, if a business is operating out of their home, they cannot qualify for the facade program. So as part of the one-on-one conversations that we're having with these businesses as we're going through the debrief, we're explaining that process to them. So again, if a business is operating out of a home and they apply for community enhancement, they would be notified that they would not qualify for the program because, again, the facade program is 100% focused on being a commercial business and commercial real estate. The other components is community enhancement. Community enhancement and community needs is ensuring that the areas that we have focused on, the economic justice index areas that's outlined in the ordinance, economic justice index areas 1 through 5, prioritizing those in the economic justice index areas 1, because based on the demographics, based on the incomes of those qualified census tracts in those neighborhoods, we have deemed them more greatly disproportionately impacted by COVID due to the challenges of the area in which they are located. Again, which is why we were awarded the funds from U.S. Treasury due to the number of census tracts that we have within the city of St. Louis that are deemed qualified census tracts, highly distressed areas. Also, just to note, we also examined the maximum impact around the investments that are being made. We were not seeking to fund 100% of a business's contract or development. So in some instances, we provided up to a $2 million grant for a project that's going to deliver $60 million of investment in North St. Louis City. So our goal was to ensure that we looked at this in an equitable way for the individual businesses, but also ensure that we were maximizing the impact through the investments that we were making and how they would ultimately support the growth and the revitalization of those census tracts to ensure that as we come out of COVID, we are also building a more robust and resilient community to ensure that any other economic downturn we're able to weather moving forward. And so that is the community enhancement grants. As you can see here, we have awarded 45 businesses, but we have not funded any of those businesses yet. We are conducting and finalizing those viability assessments. We are ensuring that every business is up to date on their taxes, that they have a current license with the license collector office. I want to thank the license collector office as well as the collector of revenue for their support of providing ongoing details around the status of these businesses. In addition, we are verifying that the business is able to expand the funds before September 30th of 2026, which is the deadline that we've set, has been set by Treasury to ensure that all funds have been expended. Because SLDC is governed by our own board of directors, we're not a city department. We entered into a subrecipient agreement between the Community Development Administration and SLDC for the purpose of this program and to disperse these funds. Because we are a subrecipient, all of these funds, the $37 million total for the program, have been fully obligated. So based on Treasury guidelines, we have to obligate the funds before December 31st of 2024. Because SLDC is a subrecipient, the funds are deemed obligated by the Treasury guidelines. The next step is to ensure that the funds are fully expended. The expended date, again, that deadline is September 30th of 2026. And so we will be working with these businesses over the next 2 years to ensure that they are able to expend these funds on the projects that they have outlined. If they cannot disperse those funds or expend those funds before that September 30 deadline, we will request those funds be reallocated to other projects that can be completed, again, based on that scoring criteria that we've set. In addition, we will bring forth the resolution shortly to provide supplemental support. We recognize that there were steps, again, in this process over the last 3 years from amending the original ordinance that was set and approved by the Board of Aldermen to also going through the applications, doing the viability assessment. And we want to ensure that the businesses that are attending these mandatory meetings, that are going through these one-on-one debriefs, have an opportunity to be provided additional support. So if they were unsuccessful in the competitive programs, which are the expansion and community enhancement programs, they will be awarded a supplemental support grant in the amount of $12,500. And we will request that the funds to support these businesses come from the administrative dollars that were coming to SLDC as part of our administrative fee. Again, that administrative fee was a small percentage, less than 10% of the funds being allocated to SLDC and our consultants for the purpose of administering this program. Again, due to the hardship that we know these businesses experience, we want to provide them with additional support. For every one of these businesses, I can't emphasize enough, there will be a viability assessment that is conducted and a CBI clearance with the Collector of Revenue and the License Collector Office before these funds are expended. Again, as you can see, we've awarded $33 million to these businesses. However, only less than $2.5 million of those funds have been expended to date. So we will continue to do our due diligence there. We also know that there were some conversations around any conflicts of interest or appearances of impropriety as it relates to some of the applicants' relationship to SLDC Board of Directors or any other public officials. SLDC has a conflict of interest policy to ensure that anyone that participates on an SLDC board, every one of us signs this conflict of interest form, that we will not use our position to support or provide or influence any grants or funding towards those businesses. We have requested that the City Council's office provide us with a full legal opinion to ensure that that conflict of interest policy has been followed for the purpose of this program, and as well as going to provide guidance on any appearance of impropriety and how to address and clear up that appearance of impropriety. So at this time, again, we're moving forward with the process. We have, identified 3 businesses that were in question around an appearance of impropriety. And so we have requested that the city councilor address those as well as she provides her legal opinion and legal guidance. Again, it is our mission and our goal here at SLDC to ensure that we are transparent, but also diligent and efficient in how we deploy these funds. While 2 years may seem like a long period of time, when you're talking about being able to procure contractors, get development moving, it requires a very fast pace. However, we will continue to be diligent before we disperse these large quantity of funds. And I want to thank, again, the board of directors here for continue to push the staff, push myself to be transparent, to be diligent, to share as much information as possible with the public, while also protecting the integrity and the privacy of those businesses. So with that, I would like to open it up to any questions by the board of directors before we hear the first resolution today, because I know this is a very sensitive and important topic for our board as we are considering how we move forward with deploying these funds in an effective and efficient manner. They have seen the hand of Alderwoman Kara Spencer.
Thank you, Director Richardson. And I want to apologize. I'm having to tune in from my phone here because my internet provider has been wildly inconsistent. But I do have some concerns here. I mean, certainly the Post-Dispatch article that went out this morning raises some serious questions. If we did a first vetting and we have actually taken a large list of businesses and pared them down to the list of awardees, I would assume that first level of vetting would at least include whether or not it's a real business, whether or not it's located in North St. Louis, whether or not it's located in an abandoned building, whether or not that business owner is willing to share any level of details about what they're planning to do with the funds. And some of the quotes in that story are extraordinarily troubling. It was shocking to see some Southside business addresses in the list as published on the SLDC website. That should be a first red flag. If we've already determined some of the businesses are not eligible, i.e. are not in that awardee list, I would have thought that given the we've been working on this for a long time, that the criteria to determine whether or not they're eligible would have been applied. If a Post-Dispatch reporter can just dig into this, within a few days, the SLDC should have been doing its due diligence. And my question here, why wasn't that done? And how can we go back to the general public and say that, trust us moving forward? This is the article this morning was extremely troubling. And I do think, with regards to saying that we're going to be doing our due diligence and no one's going to be getting these funds unless they pass muster, that should have been done prior to this moment.
Yeah, Alderwoman Kara Spencer, I appreciate it. And I did see that article this morning, and I think it was a very fair article in a lot of ways, where they, pointed out some of the businesses that, had addresses that were put on their application around maybe, they have a headquarter in South St. Louis City, but they also have an operation in North City. One of those examples is, again, Employment Connections. They initially had an address on their application for their headquarters that was located downtown. However, where the funding was going was to support their business on Natural Bridge. And so it was I would say, an error on our part by not posting the exact address of where the funds were going, rather than the address of where the applicant, may be headquartered or stationed out of or originate. And so again, as we are conducting those viability assessments, as stated in the article this morning, the business that they talked about with the abandoned building was not funded and was deemed not viable based on our viability assessment. And so that was conducted. Our process worked well in that instance, where we double checked, we did the viability assessment, and that business will not be awarded those funds. And so again, as we're continuously going through this process, we also wanted to ensure that businesses that we've been able to verify, conduct those site visits, do the financial assessment. We're not having to wait another, year for all of these assessments to be conducted. It's just not going to do a drive-by of the site. It's actually meeting with the business, understanding their operations. So I'll pass it to Lorna. She has her hand raised and may also have a response to that. Lorna.
Thank you, Neil. So I just want to reiterate that SLDC took the vetting process very, very, very seriously. When you mentioned Employment Connection, they did initially receive, based on their headquarters, you're in an ineligible geographic location. I met with them personally, along with maybe 60 other businesses that received that notification from us based on their headquarters. And then I went through their file with them and saw that they did have a satellite office in North St. Louis. So again, as Neil said, we did not change the headquarter address when we made the award, but in their application, there is the address of the satellite office that was eligible. And with those eligible addresses, we met with each of these businesses one-on-one with the requirement that they had to submit a St. Louis City business license at an eligible address in North St. Louis, their Missouri Secretary of State registration. They had to provide support for their location, whether it be a lease, a rent receipt, a lease, a rent, mortgage statement, utility bills. All of these things were required to get them to a completed application. Now, were there some bad actors? Absolutely. Were people trying to get as much of this opportunity as they could? Yes. So they might have given us a building that was vacant, that belonged to the family, but it was a North City address. They had a deed on it. It belonged to them. So only then, and when we provided the list of the conditional award, only when we go out and do that viability assessment do we realize that to be true. And so once we find out that's true, then those businesses are removed from the list and deemed ineligible.
Okay, I'm going to reiterate just my concern here that we've, done one list, one step in the vetting process. We've pared down the larger list of applications to those that are considered awardees. And to me, that means a vetting should have taken place, the vetting that at least, I realize there's going to be some bad actors, but at the end of the day, the number of really alarming applications that have been deemed awardees and have these troubling aspects it's really breaking down the trust in the system. I realize we have a whole lot of business owners here and there's a whole lot of work and vetting that has to be done. But the reality is we have a situation in our hands where this is certainly alarming to the general public. And my question is, how are we going to pivot? Is it possible even to rebuild trust out of this? To me, that vetting, whether or not they have a business license, whether or not they have a viable, location, whether they're willing to communicate to the public about what they're doing, should have been done on the first step.
And we wish it could have been, I think, but we would not be able to, even at this point, would have been able to publish a list of conditional awardees. We still have 160 viability assessments to complete. So we're talking about viability assessments on almost 500 businesses. That's a site visit, it's scheduling them, it's for our partners to create a report for us to review and approve. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think our system and our methodology is holding. It's holding. I have not read the Post-Dispatch article this morning, but of 500 businesses, I don't know how many they list that might be an issue that I'm sure we can respond to, but the number has got to be less than 2-3% of what we're doing. And so I think we're doing very well in that regard.
So Director McBride, I see your hand raised too, sir.
Yeah, thank you. With regard to the conditional awardees, are they coming back in front of this board before the final award so we can get results of the additional due diligence?
So we can, if that is a request of the board, we can definitely do that before we fund those larger dollar amounts. I would say, again, it would create some delays in the process. If monthly we have to bring back those every award to the board for approval. I would say for us, again, it's velocity is important as well. of making sure that we deploy these funds, but also we want to be diligent. So I guess my question to the board, I guess what question you're asking Director McBride is there a particular process that you would like to have additional vetting outside the process that we currently have in play? Right now, we're providing these conditional awards and then requesting for the board to provide approval for us to move forward with funding them once we're able to verify this information.
Yeah, well, I'd definitely like to see results of the further vetting for the community enhancement awards. I mean, we're talking $2 million a pop, and I think it'd be appropriate to bring that back, especially if the due diligence for those community enhancement awards involves submission of 2023 payrolls. You know, we all know that they're, you know, like Sweetie Pies isn't in business, so it doesn't have a 2023 payroll. They've been in front of my board previously and are very transparent about that. So I don't understand how they could even get through any process. And so, yeah, I'd like to see where we're at on that. I appreciate the velocity and I appreciate everything else, but there are large amounts of monies that are going this board, and it's a process that somehow the communication as to what all the due diligence and vetting on your end isn't being expressed to us, because we fully appreciate all the hard work that's being put into this, but it's confusing to me that some of these decisions that are being made.
Yeah. So, for example, I think that's a great example, Director McBride. So, as you know, we have conditional awards for Sweetie Pies as an example of, $75,000 for operational expansion and $1.5 million for community enhancement. To date, they have not been awarded those funds until they can produce that payroll, right? So we are still needing to verify that payroll. That payroll has not been submitted to us. And once we're able to either verify that they meet the muster or they don't, they would then fall off the list. I would say for the operational expansion, again, it was based on a business operating in North St. Louis City, and they had the ability to show their payroll for 2023. And that's what the conditional awards were made on. But until they're able to produce the information that was put within their application, they will not be awarded. If the board would like to see that information come back before them, before funding happens, I'm again open to making that adjustment. I think we just have to be prepared for the level of diligence and review that will be required by the board for every one of these businesses. Again, we have 45 community enhancement awards, but there are 185, expansion awards. And we can bring those lists back before the board if, you all deem it necessary before they're funded. What I would say about the capacity building and the stabilization, they are first come, first serve. So I would, request, because they are a smaller dollar amount, and then they are not competitive in nature, that we have the ability to move forward with funding those, as well as the supplemental support as we are conducting the viability assessments for these businesses. Again, that is the viability and also the license collector and the collector of revenue, the CBI plans. And so, Lorna, do you have any other comments about that? And then we can move forward to the resolutions, because I know we want to get through the actual meeting today.
Well, if I could, just before Lorna, yeah, I fully agree with that, President Richardson, if we could bring back the community enhancement and the expansion and the others, as you suggested, just need to get into the community.
And so with that, as I mentioned prior, on the operational expansion awards of $25,000. Those are for 1 to 5 employees. So we've been working with an owner. So we know for sure they have 1 to 5 employees. They have the owner there. So those $25,000 awards, we are not asking for payroll because we know there's 1 employee, there's the owner at least. For anything over the $25,000, we are asking for payroll support. So I just for clarity for me, is the $25,000 awards, do we want to bring all of those back as well? Because there's no payroll support for that. The fact that they're a viable business and there is an owner, they're eligible for the $25,000. They have 1 employee. Anything else, we are requesting payroll support. So just wanted to get clarity on that. Is it for any award over $25,000 on the operational expansion side?
Director McBride, just want to.
It would help me if you could put that slide back up.
Yeah.
Just of the 4 or plus categories.
Yeah. There you go. And again, those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, for my personally, yeah, I just am focused on the community enhancement. I'd like to have a list of what happens with all of these, quite frankly, to the extent that we had the preliminary list. I'd like to have some understanding as to where we stand on expansion, stabilization, and capacity building as they go forward. But I don't disagree with the point that Lorna raised as to the expansion.
And what we will do is, here's an example of what we will post online as well. So the business name, the address, the ward they're located, the total amount funded to date, and the total awarded amount. And then you can see the various categories in which they were awarded. What we would like to do moving forward, and it sounds like from the board, prior to us releasing the funds, is getting approval for any award above $25,000 for operational expansion and or community enhancement. And we can bring back those lists to the board of directors at our October meeting. I know we have a grant signing ceremony next week scheduled with those businesses. What we will communicate to the businesses from an operational expansion perspective is if they have over 5 employees, we need their payroll information. We will share that information, not in detail of the particular employee, but we will be able to share some of those details around the operations of that business before we fund those businesses, as well as the community enhancement. So what I will promise to bring before the board in the October meeting is any funding above $25,000, as well as any funding for community enhancement will get approval from the board prior to us remitting any funds to these businesses, just to provide, again, another level of diligence here and transparency. I think this should also be a testament to our transparency in this process. This is what it's like to be doing this transparent process of selecting these awardees, doing these viability assessments in a public setting, right? Many times these programs, this vetting happens behind closed doors, and we are doing it in a very open setting and taking scrutiny for that. I am comfortable with it, but I also have comfort that we are not deploying funds that will go to any business that's not viable. So again, I have some comfort, I have some strength in that, and we will continue to move forward in this process to be diligent and make sure that any funding above the $25,000 comes before this board, before it's submitted, so you all can provide any concerns or questions, and then we will ensure that you have the necessary information to make those decisions as we move forward. because we're all in this together, as board members as well as staff of SLDC to support the city and these businesses. Sean Spencer, I want to recognize your hand. Kara, I want to recognize your hand in a moment, and then we want to start this meeting if possible.
Well, thank you, President. Thank you, President Richardson. You know, I appreciate the presentation and the transparency and the slides and all the background information. The viability assessment is going to be the key to this. There's two quick questions. One is for Ms. Alexander. I've worked with on audits and highly respect her ability to work with these federal grants and this money. This is something I've done for 15 years too. It's a monumental task we're trying to accomplish. So one on the not-for-profits, we talked a lot about the businesses, but on the not-for-profits viability, we are checking the good standing, the 501c3s, EINs, that all that basic information so we know that it's a viable not-for-profit that's happening.
Yes, so that was part of the documentation requirement for the application. And on the one-on-ones, if they were not-for-profit, we have a checklist that we did, in fact, receive their 501c3, their tax exempt letter from the state, along with a list of their board of directors and their bylaws.
Excellent. And then on one of the things we haven't touched on is the compliance on the backside. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I think that's an important part. Even if somebody gets awarded some of the funds, there's going to be some follow-up. And the last thing is just making sure SLDC feels like you have the capacity in order to do these follow-ups and the viability assessments. And if there's something that the board might be able to do to support what you need to make sure that this due diligence is done at a high level.
So I can speak briefly on the community enhancement grants. We're requiring for those grant awards, once all legal documents are signed, we find that it's a viable project. What the review now with Lance's team that's going on is, you know, we rarely funded any request on the community enhancement side at 100%. Mm-hmm. So the applicant might have asked for $1 million and we gave them $100,000 was their award. So the first step in these initial meetings with the businesses and not-for-profits was, you have $100,000. Can you make this project work? Do you have other funding, or do you have to reduce your scope to make it work? Now, they're not allowed to say, well, I can't reduce my scope, but I do have another building down the street that I might be able to use. If the initial site was not part of their application, additional site, then we're not allowing the transfer of funds to that site. It's on the sites that they requested funding for. So where they're at right now in that process is they're waiting for information back from the businesses. I believe Lance said all the initial meetings with the businesses have taken place on the community enhancement side. So now they're waiting for these reduced scopes, if they had in their application that they had other funding sources, support that they do have other funding sources, before we could make those firm awards and go to the legal documents. With the community enhancement grant, we're requiring that the payments go through a title company. So there will be budgets, the funds will be at the title company and dispersed after our construction inspector goes out. If they're saying it's going to be 10% complete, that they see 10% of the construction work complete. So on the brick and mortar side, we're going to follow the guidelines of CDA in that development. On the operational expansion side, where we're giving them $25,000 and then more if they have more employees, when they attend a grant signing, which we have one this Monday at the Empowerment Center, I give them like a 15-minute presentation to talk about what costs are eligible. They then have to, part of the grant agreement is to give us what their proposed cost and budget is for the $25,000 or higher amount. They're then required, as part of the grant agreement as well, to report to us semi-annually on the expenditure. So the period starts in August 1 of 2023, 4, and it'll end January 31st. So the first report from all the businesses receiving operational expansion grants will be February 15th. And they have to submit invoices, payroll support for all the grant funds that they receive. If they spent all the grant funds, the whole $25,000 by January 31st, they no longer have to report. But if they got larger amounts or they didn't spend all the funds, they'll have to continue to report semi-annually until the funds are spent. So we will review the support for those awards.
Thank you for that clarification and educating some people that may not know about that process, because that may impact somebody's decision to take that funding, and we'll have to see what happens. But everybody sees a pot of money, but they don't necessarily understand all the compliance and everything that's going to have to go along with accepting that award. So thank you for that.
Exactly. And then the last thing too is, they will also have to go through competitive bidding processes. So on any project over $1 million, we'll have to go through our women and minority business compliance team, as well as ensuring that they have a competitive bidding process, because they are receiving federal funds or public funds to complete this project. So again, it's a process that we're going through, and it's a process that these businesses will have to go through to ensure that they not only receive the funds, but also that they meet the compliance rigor that's required when taking on these public dollars. And for all 45 of those community enhancement projects, again, we have had debriefs with them. We've had conversations with them about their projects. And we will continue to hold those sessions for businesses who have questions about their scoring and helping them through that process too. Okay, Alderwoman Spencer, do you have any last questions or comments before we move forward to the agenda? We're 47 minutes in here.
I do. I mean, we were talking a lot about transparency, and, for me, I just am going to have to disagree with the feeling that this has been really transparent. I just going to have to disagree with that. I really appreciate you, Director Richardson, responding to my email last night, bumping it up again this morning, answering some of my questions. But up until this morning, I didn't know what consultant agencies were involved in helping to determine whether or not businesses were getting awards. And that could be absolutely my not seeing that in a previous communication. But it is troubling to me that, I'm looking at the consultant agency engaged, their address matches one of the addresses of the awardees. There just seems to be like a lot of questions that I'm not fully aware of. And for me, as a pretty engaged and member of the community, I'm finding that to be, I'm just not finding this process to be as transparent as I would like. And I also want to recognize there is a lot of work here. Lorna, you come and have an excellent reputation, one that I would not dispute, one that is shared by many, many members of the community. But it's troubling to me that we don't seem to have the administrative support around this, because it is a lot of work, and it is an enormous amount of work to vet all this large number of businesses. And what's even more troubling to me is that what we're looking to do here is move some of the funds from the administrative side to the awardee side. And we're clearly struggling on the administrative side to vet all these businesses and to ensure that they will be compliant with the federal regulations around all this, and to be in line with what the community has as far as expectations. I continue to get a large number of concerns from the community, and to me, this is a breakdown in trust, and it's doing the opposite of what we should be doing, which is really creating a firm belief in the future of North St. Louis.
Yeah, thank you, Alderwoman Spencer. I'm sorry, we have to move forward, but I will respond to your comments in regards to NDC, Grow America, as well as Morgan Graves. So we brought before this board that list of consultants that we selected through a competitive RFP process. We've identified NDC, Grow America. From that list, this board approved that contractor to move forward, as well as Morgan Graves Consultants. Across multiple board meetings, we've had conversations about these contracts and how we got to this point. The board voted on it. We've been transparent with the public about who they were. Again, sorry that Alderwoman Spencer, you feel as though you were left out of the loop as it relates to selecting these vendors, but it has been voted on by the board for those contractors that were selected, and any contract that we enter into with any of those consultants or voted on by the board, and there's clear rationale that's provided as well. So with that, I'll move on to the first resolution today, is resolution number 24 SLDC 965, authorizing and approving the expenditure of funds for the St. Louis Coalition at the 2025 GON Symposium in St. Louis. I'll pass it over to our Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Initiatives, Mr. Stephen Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Richardson, and good morning to the Board of Directors. So for the third time, St. Louis has the opportunity to host the GON conference that's hosted by the United States Geospatial Intelligence Foundation. And so this resolution would approve and authorize SLDC to once again sponsor and contribute to the overall St. Louis region's participation in this conference by providing up to $21,600 to pay for exhibit booth space, AV needs, and overhead signage. So I think most everyone is fairly familiar with this conference and the opportunity we have to showcase St. Louis and the growing geospatial ecosystem here. In 2023, we were able to have residents from Project Connect attend the conference to learn more about the geospatial ecosystem. We were able to host an event at Keener Plaza for the broader community. And there will be much more opportunity to show off the new Downtown North Innovation District and downtown itself this May during the conference. So I'll pause there and take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Steve. Again, this is a great event that we're able to participate in and highlight, the focus of the city of St. Louis as it relates to the geospatial industry. Any questions from any of the directors around this resolution? Okay, Alderwoman Clark-Hubbard.
Thank you, Director Richardson, and thank you for the presenter on that. I just wanted to offer my support on getting the word out in the community. This is exciting to hear because in one of our HUD meetings, we had some constituents, neighbors of that community down there that were interested and want to know how they could get involved and get the information. I remember vividly one grandmother having a grandson that she was so proud of that wanted to get into that geospatial industry and in that space, and she wanted to be connected. So I want to just offer my support in the community to make sure we get the word out on the ground. And if there's some kind of way that we can support them getting there financially, scholarships, whatever that may be, I think that would be a good step over there in that community as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would love to touch base on that. And we were fortunate in 2023 to be able to actually pay for residents to attend the conference so they could be a part of it. And so we're early on in planning now, but would definitely love to explore how we can increase that presence.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 965.
So move, Gilbert.
Second, McBride.
I have a motion and a second. Vote, please.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark-Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer,
Keep moving, please.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director McBride,
I don't think did you catch Director McBride, Laura?
Aye.
Okay, aye, okay, there we go. Thank you.
Okay. Director Sean Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With the majority voting, president voting aye, the motion is approved to approve resolution number 24 SODC 965. The next item on the agenda is resolution number 24 SODC 966, requesting acceptance of an additional $2.5 million into the SLDC ARPA Housing Development Pool, subrecipient agreement and approval of issuance of a request for qualifications for infill housing design concepts to develop 10 to 20 innovative housing units on vacant LRA properties. I would ask our head of LRA, Mr. Shelton Anderson, to provide the presentation. And Shelton, maybe give also some background around the RFQ that has been out to date and why there is a additional request here today for extending the RFQ and expanding the marketing of the RFQ and providing support for these development teams as we move forward on this innovative approach to addressing vacant LRA properties.
Yes, thank you and good morning. Thank you, Chair Richardson and the SLDC board members. Just as Chair Richardson indicated and has read the preface of this resolution, of course, it is not to expend or add additional funds. It is actually receiving an additional $2.5 million into the current housing pool. Just to give some context, in January of 2022, SLDC was awarded $20 million in ARPA funding via CDA. That was to fund the various affordable housing activities as a part of the housing pool. Specifically, $10 million was dedicated towards new market tax credits. $4 million was dedicated towards 30% of AMI rental housing units. And so as a part of adding the additional $2.5 million to the fund, we seek to dedicate $3.25 million toward the rehab of LRA properties and an additional $3.25 million towards new construction of affordable housing units. And so this subrecipient agreement, again, was actually executed back in 2022, as we've had plenty of conversations with our citywide housing strategists, certainly with the mayor's office, Chair Richardson, several SLDC members. We've really honed in on what is the need for housing development and production in the city of St. Louis. And as we currently know, we have a shortfall of approximately 6,000 plus housing units. Those are both rental and ownership opportunities in the city of St. Louis. And so this initiative is really targeted towards addressing those issues. This is actually an SLDC and CDA joint initiative. And so the goal of this initiative is to develop a pilot that really is rapidly developing innovative manufacturing housing units, and with the goal of doing so in 2025. This is really important because, as we've seen in other cities such as Atlanta, Baltimore, et cetera, manufacturing housing and innovative housing concepts has been used for specifically infill housing. That is both for the rapid development, but also from a financial standpoint in being affordable and getting housing into the market. So this really is to introduce a pilot program to the community where we can show community lenders, the real estate community, the appraisal community, that innovative housing concepts is a way that we can pursue infill housing in the city of St. Louis. We actually issued an RFQ several months ago. That RFQ's intent, as we have really honed in and done some research, the scope of that expanded as we are essentially looking to take what will be an RFQ process and then have respondents that respond to the RFQ that we will then later issue an RFP to a select amount of development teams that respond to an RFQ. So we wanted to be open and transparent in bringing this to the board for approval in doing so. And this resolution will specifically issue or allow SLDC to reissue this RFQ to the architectural development and manufacturing community, again, specifically to construct approximately 10 to 20 housing units. Those housing units, again, certainly will serve as an example of the possibility for development. SLDC in that process will certainly convene a selection committee as it has done in the past practice. And that selection committee will score and select the development teams that respond to the RFQ in a competitive bidding process. Once that has been complete, we will certainly bring those respondents back to the SLDC board in open and transparency, and we'll make a recommendation of those who the selection committee believes wish to be awarded for that process. And essentially any respondent that then is issued an RFP from that selection pool will be awarded an amount not to exceed $10,000 for the development of their design concepts and plans that is created through that effort. We find that to be equitable, and that, as many of you know, when most developers, contractors respond to RFQs or RFPs, there does not necessarily tend to be an actual award that is given for their time and effort. And so because this, again, will be a new and innovative design process and development process in the city of St. Louis, we wish to be equitable in awarding those small amounts to the contractors for their time, for their effort, but also so that SLDC can retain the rights for those designs as a part of its plans to develop actual housing, as well as giving those actual development firms their equal rights to reserve and maintain their plans so that they can actually develop those as well. So with that, again, I'll open up for any questions, any comments. The last thing that I want to mention is that we seek to, again, receive the approval from the SLDC board to move forward with the reissuance of the RFQ. And we certainly seek to provide a timeline where the RFP process will be ending in selection and awards of these development teams in the fall and winter season. So again, I will pause and yield for any questions and comments from the board of directors.
I want to recognize Director Gilbert, your hand.
Yes, I understand what you're doing. I understand the concept. Have we already picked the 3 to 5 acre site in the city? Is that a part of the information we're providing to the people who are going to bid?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Director Gilbert. So the RFQ that is being presented is for the purpose of getting the design information back from the development community. It's really to inform SLDC of the potential of development from a financial standpoint, from a number of housing, the type of housing units. And from that information, we will then actually apply that towards where we have already pre-selected the potential of 3 sites that are in the 3 to 5 acreage that are the highest impact, where there is either current development activities taking place or future development activities that we know will take place. And so the RFP itself will actually include the proposed site to the developers. So they will actually be responding specifically to the development on those proposed sites or one proposed site as a part of the RFP. But as of today, the actual sites have not been completely selected. They've been pre-vetted and they are certainly in our wheelhouse. That is also targeting them directly towards what we have in the Economic Justice Action Plan, where they are in the Economic Justice Indicator 1 areas for the most impact, as well as, being in qualified census tracts.
It seems to me that, they need to know information about the site in order to do some of this response. I mean, if you've got lots that aren't flat or aren't, haven't been prepared, it's going to make a big difference. But you don't think that's
Well, this is just the qualifications to make sure
Okay.
they're qualified to do the work, Director Gilbert. And then once we issue the RFP, it will have that detail that you're talking about. So
Okay,
we just
thank
wanted to make sure, yeah, for sure. We just wanted to ensure that as we were vetting the industry around who would be responsive to this, understanding, what is their average per square foot cost of building, who are the development teams that they're bringing forward. do they meet some of the diversity goals? And so then being able to have that information will allow us to select sites that are conducive to the production of this type of housing. And then we will produce those sites and have those specific details around the acreages, the type of property, the sites themselves. So then they can go out and examine those sites, see, review it and provide any architectural and engineering design specifically for those sites. And that's why it was important for us to think through a stipend, because knowing that a business or development team is going to go out and pretty much do some pre-development work of developing architectural engineering designs for a particular property will take some capacity for them to conduct. But this first stage is just going through the request for qualifications to get qualified bidders, and then have that short list to then go out to have that deeper conversation on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions around this resolution? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 966.
So move, Gilbert.
Second, Sean Spencer.
I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer, Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Abstain.
Director Sean Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With the majority present voting aye, the motion is approved for resolution number 24 SLDC 966. The next item on the agenda is resolution number 24 SLDC 967. I'll pass it over to Lorna Alexander to present the resolution authorizing the acceptance of the 2.575 million in ARPA administrative funding and the transfer and use of 1.5 million of that 2.5 towards providing supplemental support grants for applicants to the North St. Louis Small Business and Nonprofit Program. Lorna?
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning again, Director. So this resolution is a two-part resolution. One, first accepting the additional 2.5, a little bit over 2.5 million in ARPA funds for SLDC, ARPA administration and program delivery. We currently have ARPA subrecipient agreement with CDA for $6,485,000 that was approved by this board. And the dollars in that $6,485,000 came from the first tranche of money where we were awarded $29.1 million and then the $37 million for the North City grant. We took from that the $6,485,000 of $66 million. So it was a little less than 10% to administer those original 5 work programs. When the second tranche came, there were additional 6 work programs for SLDC, and the total amount of that allocation was $43,325,000. And we set aside and reserved, as we took these programs to the Board of E&A for approval, $2.575 million for the administration, which we're now asking authorization to accept those funds into our current contract, which would bring the dollar amount to $9,060,000. That's the first part. The second part is then asking that the board gives us the authority to transfer out of this program $1.5 million of administrative funds allocated through Board Bill 82 and amended by Board Bill 37, where they allow $3.7 million for the administration of the North City program. This is required in order for us to fund the supplemental support grants that Neil mentioned in our presentation, and which we're bringing before you now. Right now, it's a count of maybe 159 unsuccessful applicants that we would like to provide the $12,500 for their time spent, and also for due diligence, and help them with their stabilization of their organization. The grant agreement they sign will indicate that they will have to provide a budget of eligible costs on how they're going to spend the $12,500 in those supplemental support grants. And lastly, I wanted to mention that transferring this $1.5 million is not going to reduce SLDC staff that's working on this grant. Neil and has found, we've met with our chief financial officer, and we are, well, I can let Neil speak to that in more detail, or where the money is coming from and the hit that we might ultimately take here at SLDC to provide these additional funds for the supplemental support grant.
Yeah, and so as we are evaluating, again, the staff that we have on board, we feel confident that we have the adequate staff to do this review and compliance, as well as ensuring that we have the appropriate talent and individuals consulting us through this process to ensure that we, again, are doing our due diligence and are being effective of how we're evaluating the programs themselves. So again, this is to provide support to these businesses that have dedicated, in some cases, up to 3 years to this program, and may have, again, diverted time from their ongoing businesses every day to participate in order for them to receive some support here. I think will help us continue to build that trust as we continue to stabilize these businesses and work through this process. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions from the board of directors in regards to this resolution, noting again that every one of these businesses will have to go through their viability assessment, provide that budget and that other information to be approved. If the business does not provide the information, they will not be awarded funds, even on the supplemental support side of this. So I just want to, again, ensure that the board and the public understand we are meeting with these businesses. We're going through these grant agreements with the fine-tooth comb and making sure that we are doing our due diligence. So Alderwoman Kara Spencer, I want to recognize your hand.
Thank you, Chair Richardson. I just want to again voice my concern about moving funds from the administrative side to the awardee side. I think, it's as you pointed out, in a large lift to do all this administrative, vetting to make sure that these businesses are eligible. We're several years in, as you pointed out. We have a lot of time invested, and we still have businesses on the awardee list that clearly should not be on there. And so I think we need to make sure that we are shoring up the administrative side of this process to build the trust necessary to have this program be effective. And I just don't see that happening. So I'm very cautious about this, and I would urge us to rethink this motion.
Any other questions, concerns from the directors in regards to this resolution? Director Gilbert.
Yeah, I wanted to say it's still, I look at this list, and sometimes from the name of the business, I can tell what they do. But in a lot of cases, these are LLCs, and there's no indication of what kind of what they're doing. It to me, that seems to be important. That's important for me to know what it is. I can tell what a church is. I can tell what a grocery is, but some of these don't tell me anything about the organization. Yeah. And I see several that are classified as profit that are nonprofit. As far as I know, they seem to be. I don't understand.
Yeah, so if the documentation that was provided in the application, if again a business that may have appeared to be a nonprofit if they submitted information saying that they're a for-profit business, provided their articles of organization, their operating agreements, provided any additional support to show that they are, again, located and operating in North St. Louis City. If we're able to verify that information, then we are able to fund those awardees. But again, if there's information that's needed from the board to make a decision, I understand. What I will say about these businesses, again, these are just businesses operating in North St. Louis City, and it's not technically saying that we are granting a business funds because they have a grocery store versus a beauty salon, for an example. This is a non-competitive award that we are providing. So if it's a viable business, if it again has their business license, then they will be deemed a business that's operating in North City. I think the challenge is when we get to the competitive process, some of those decisions around the impact of the project itself, again, is it a community amenity, such as a grocery store, a healthcare facility, or daycare facility? Some of that decisioning was made on those competitive programs, but these other programs, it's really about just supporting the operations of businesses located in North City and not really being delineating between the impact on these non-competitive programs. It was really either first come, first serve, and or them putting forth a viable application that can be verified. So I understand the question there, Director Gilbert. What we will also do is begin to share some of the finer details around every particular project as we're able to get that information uploaded. As you can imagine, that it's a tall task to get every single description for all of these businesses uploaded, but we have been able to verify a lot of this information. I don't know, Lorna, you have anything additional to add to those comments I just made?
No, I don't. If the board wants to require a brief portfolio on each of the businesses, we can try to get that done as to the for-profits, what their goods or services are, nonprofits. We don't fund programs with this grant. We do not fund programs, not allowable costs, but the nonprofit, where they are and the programs they're providing, we're funding only operational costs with them. I guess we could try to make that happen.
Any other questions before we move this resolution forward for vote?
Yes,
Do we
sir.
have a question in the room? I'm sorry. Director.
Director Reed.
Reed?
Well, in your earlier talk, President, you used the words obligated funds. And I think in the Department of Treasury, they use the language allocated funds. Now, are those synonymous with each other? Because don't we have to allocate by the end of this year?
So, Neil, I can respond to that. So initially, when the first final rule came out for the grant, it appeared that any recipient of the grant, the city of St. Louis, and then their sub-recipient who was going to have beneficiaries, had to obligate the funds down to the beneficiary level, like our grantees here. However, at the beginning of the year, Treasury clarified the obligation of the funds. So for the city of St. Louis, who is the recipient, the funds are considered obligated in a sub-recipient agreement. So all of the funds allocated through board bills to SLDC through CDA are considered obligated to the Treasury. So we don't have to obligate down to the beneficiary level. they're obligated with the legal subrecipient agreement between SLDC and CDA.
So therefore, we're not really hitting a hard deadline in 3 months.
No, no, we're not. The
Yes.
city is, but SLDC is not.
Got time.
Yeah, exactly. But we have time, but also for some of the projects that we're funding, Director Reed, we know we need to make sure that the business has an understanding of what's required of them over the next 2 years. Again, even on, especially on those larger grant award amounts, knowing that they have to work through a dispersing agent, knowing that they have to go through WMBE compliance, with our WMBE compliance team, and putting that information in their bids within our plan room so they can be bidded out. It's a pretty exhaustive process and a lot of diligence that they will have to go through as we move this forward. But this is something that, you know, our compliance team does on every major project, whether it's, you know, receiving a tax incentive or abatement or significant funding over $1 million from the public. They have to go through that process. And for many of these smaller developers, this is their first time going through this process. So we have to educate them on that piece, ensure that they are having those competitive bids, and then ultimately working with our team at the Economic Empowerment Center to connect them with women and minority business enterprises that can actually complete the work. And so we're holding some of those kind of what we call matchmaking sessions as well, where those developers can come in and meet with those contractors and start to understand the work and scopes that need to be completed in order for these projects to be fully constructed and the funds to be expended by September 30th of 2026. But our team is ready to work with them through that process and already holding sessions with those who have been conditionally awarded funds. Okay. With that, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 967.
So move, Sean Spencer.
Second, Arnold.
For the motion and the second, I would like to have a roll call vote, please.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
I recuse myself.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer,
No.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Aye.
Director Sean Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With the majority present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 967. The next resolution before us today is resolution number 24 SLDC 968, a supplemental resolution to resolution number 24 SLDC 945 pertaining to grants from the North St. Louis Small Business and Nonprofit Program to eligible businesses and nonprofits for expansion efforts. So Lorna, it's your show today, so I'll pass it back over to you.
Thank you. So resolution 968 is in the line of the supplemental resolutions for the changes to the list of awardees under the expansion grant program. And you originally approved 173 awardees in August. We came back, in July, we came back in August, and here we are in September. These are for applicants who are brought to our attention, maybe in an oversight on our part, and they go before a reconsideration committee. So this month we have 8 businesses that went through that process and came out successful in receiving an operational expansion award. So we're requesting that the board approve adding these 8 businesses to the successful operational expansion applicant.
And as based on the conversation earlier today, any business that again has been funded over $25,000, we will make sure that we bring it before this board with the full description of the project, as well as some information about the number of businesses, the number of employees per business, as well, just to ensure that there's some oversight, additional oversight and verification from the board on these operational expansion grants. But as Lorna mentioned, we have offered a one-on-one debrief with every business that has been deemed unsuccessful to understand the scoring process, to understand, how their application was assessed to that scoring process. And what we have done is, if we found that there was an inconsistency within their application, such again as the addresses were again things that we needed to take into account, we made some of those updates once we were able to verify that information, and then making it right and kind of again building that trust to make sure that we are staying true to those businesses and the process itself. Again, we have a reconsideration process. We have the one-on-one debrief process with every business and making our staff available to do that. Again, I want to commend Lorna and her team for taking a lot of that work on. So with that, are there any questions from the directors around this additional list of businesses that are being considered? Alderwoman Kara Spencer.
Thank you, Director. I just want to, for clarification, have these businesses all been vetted to make sure that they're in compliance and they, that there's not going to be any vacant buildings here or businesses on the south side? I'm just trying to understand. I don't understand where, when the list we get, if they've been vetted, is this one vetted? Are we sure that these are businesses that can comply?
If they have not had their viability assessment completed, they have not been vetted. But through their application and their application materials, we're giving them the conditional award until we actually get that viability assessment and they clear CBI. No, they will not be awarded the funds.
So when is the viability assessments going to be completed on all these? After they've been, because we are okaying the awards through this vote, correct? And they
conditional awards.
Conditional awards, conditional on whether or not they
pass their viability assessment, which includes a site visit, that they are a viable business operating in North St. Louis out of a building in North St. Louis, and two, that they are current on their city business license and collector of revenue accounts.
I'm just curious, why are we, it seems like we could do that vetting process first before we vote to award these businesses the awards. It seems like we're doing this in a backwards arrangement. Is there a reason why we're voting on these businesses before having vetted them?
So I would say, and Neil could speak further on it, because the process, some of these folks have submitted their original application in July of 22, and the public was needing to hear from us. They were needing to hear, hey, I've gone through one-on-one sessions, I've listened to webinars, I've submitted all this information, paid out money to make sure that my business license was current, that I didn't owe any back taxes. Where does my application stand? We heard that loud and clear. And so with Neil's guidance, hey, what can we do as far as a conditional award? On paper, you look great, right? You look viable. But until we actually go out there, or our partners go out there, and then we get reports back from the collector of revenue and the license collector, we can't say you've been awarded. But here, we've reviewed your application, little small business, and it looks good on paper. So you've met all the criteria you've been scored for a conditional award, you've got a passing score, but we still have to wait for these final steps.
Well,
And-
I'm going to push back and just say on many of these don't look great on paper. I'm not saying these particular 7, but in general, we're still looking at paper on lists that don't look good. They look like businesses all over the place. So we've had these for 2 years. I just don't understand these lists, if they've been vetted, where they are in the process, and what is the holdup for understanding whether or not they have a business license or not. It should be a very simple process with the license sector. Until I can fully feel confident in the list, it's a list of names. I don't know what Worldwide Transportation Services even means. I don't know what they're doing. I just don't have a level of comfort with where we are in the process of vetting each one of these businesses. The conditional awards just doesn't seem like something we should be engaged in at this point, over 2 years into having received the applications. And for that reason, I'm just urging caution. The more action we take on this, the less trust the general public has in the process and has in city government in a general sense. And that's a real dangerous road to go down. When we're breaking down trust in between the government and its community, that is irreparable damage. And so I'm not saying these don't deserve funding. I'm saying what I have in front of me does not constitute a level of comfort for me to feel comfortable voting on it today.
Okay. Thank you, Alderwoman Kara Spencer. Again, in the essence of time, I know we have a few people that need to hop off here shortly, and we have another resolution before us. Are there any other comments in regards to the resolution? Hearing none, I would like to move forward with a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 968. Kind of roll call, more motion, please. Is there a motion?
So move, Sean Spencer.
Second, Arnold.
Roll call vote, please.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
I recuse myself.
Alderwoman Kara Spencer,
Present.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Aye.
Director Sean Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With the majority present voting aye, the motion is approved for resolution number 24 SLDC 968. The last resolution that we have today is resolution number 24 SLDC 969. I would just like to note quickly, Laura, when we send out the final this final resolution, to update the heading of the resolution number to number 24 SLDC 969 and not number 23 on the subsequent pages of the resolution. So I want to pass it over to our Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Stephanie Greasy, to present the resolution authorizing SLDC to enter into a contract with Candid for marketing and public relations services for SLDC's coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery programs. I'll pass it over to Ms. Stephanie Greasy.
Thank you, Chairman Richardson. For background on the process, we selected a marketing firm in June of this year to provide services funded from general SLDC revenues. Then in mid-July, we published an RFP for ARPA funded and ARPA related marketing services, with RFP responses due in early August. 7 entities responded to the RFP. Of those 7, 5 provided complete responses that met the RFP's parameters. We used scorecards to objectively and independently measure whether each of the elements of the RFP had been satisfied, and from that process, 2 candidates were considered most responsive. We considered the reasonableness of the assumptions made in the top 2 responses and the curiosity shown by the 2 to learn more about what we were requesting in the RFP. It was noted that of the top 2 respondents, the one with the least experience with SLDC also asked the fewest questions about what we were looking for. It was also important for us to look at how SLDC's work would be staffed. One respondent highlighted that they would work with WMBE certified subcontractors, and the other, according to their proposal, would not. The respondent with less SLDC experience also didn't factor in associated implemented costs for delivering on the marketing efforts, like the cost of buying promotional materials and ad space. So while our hourly rates were comparable for the two, only one provided a responsive proposal that captured the full scope of that engagement described in the RFP, and that was Candid. As you know, we've been working with Candid for years, and as part of the presentation of the resolution, I would like to ask our partners from that organization to share some highlights of services they've provided us recently. So you have that summary as you consider the resolution. Please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, Board of Directors, and thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Chairman Richardson, for the opportunity to be here today. And thank you for extending, or at least giving us the opportunity to extend our partnership with SLDC for the SLRF funds for the ARPA marketing portion of the work. So just a quick recap, because I know we've kind of had a long meeting this morning. So we continue to provide comprehensive services to SLDC and for the ARPA marketing project specifically, which includes a lot of media relations, which, as you can imagine, we've been quite busy with recently, especially with the grant program. We also continue to keep the website updated at all times to make sure that all of the current and relevant information is available to the public and to our partners. Also, we do track the metrics on that the Board of Directors receives in a monthly report each month. So we're tracking who is hitting our page and receiving information. This past year during our ARPA marketing partnership, we got to do a lot of fun branding and creative projects, one of which we are extremely proud of and very excited to see come to fruition and come to life is the Monarch on MLK, which is the Campus for Economic Mobility at the former Killark Electric site on Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. And we also have helped support the Connect STL Digital Inclusion Coalition and have created a unique look and feel for them and their materials. And then we support the Northside Economic Empowerment Center, which, as you all know, is really a crown jewel of one of the ARPA funded programs. And it's certainly a place that the community has really gotten to know and has leveraged and used the services there. So we do support all of their marketing needs for their flyers and all of their events, things like that. We have also gotten to do some product naming and branding this year. So for Home STL, which is the home buyer assistance product, we created both the logo, the look and feel, the materials, the website, and all of those sorts of things, along with Mobilize STL, which is for the contractor and supplier loans, and Scale Up STL, which is for small business growth loans. We also have been busy writing scripts and producing videos, the latest of which is a Home STL home buyer process overview, which shows how that program works. And there are more of these types of videos to come as we seek to educate the public more about SLDC, its services and programs. We also manage and keep up to date SLDC social media, including posts about all of the ARPA programs and funds and all of those things. And then also, have been available to support the organization on special events, which included the NEEC 1-year anniversary. We do an annual 314-day press event where we handle all of the logistics for that, working with our partners that are MWBE certified firms on the event planning portion of that as well. We also supported the Connect STL through their quarterly events. And then we do a lot of kind of back-end communications, admin types of things that you wouldn't normally think that a marketing and communications firm to support the organization, helping with kind of some of the organization of the events, flow, registrations, using Eventbrite and all of those things, providing reporting and keeping all of that data in our databases. And then this year was also the first time that we ever did a large paid media campaign to focus on and support and promote some of the services that are available, including the Northside Economic Empowerment Center. We did that through some billboards around town strategically placed in North City, and also in interior bus cards. We did some digital and print advertising, and we are really proud of the Positively St. Louis segments that we did with Fox 2 KPLR. That was a wonderful partnership. So that is all we've got today. And again, appreciate the opportunity to continue our partnership and look forward to another successful year together.
Thank you, Sarah and Becky and others at Candid. Neil, that's the end of the presentation on this resolution.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and thank you, Becky and Sarah. I think it's important for the board to recognize that it's not just them managing a program, it's also being responsive to our staff, being able to put out those flyers about particular events, being able to promote this information. And I know initially as we were rolling out the businesses, the grant programs, it was questions around, how are we going to get the communication out? How are we going to make sure that people are aware these programs exist? How do we create the marketing campaigns around the various products that we have available? And as you can see by some of the overwhelming responses from many of the programs that we have put out, the word has gotten definitely to the people that need the resources the most. And I'm, very proud of the level of engagement that has taken place, but also the level of communication across multiple platforms, whether it's social media, whether it's print, whether it's through billboards and other settings. I think we've hit every box that we could possibly hit when it comes to making people aware, including the new weekly newsletters that go out from Candid about the various initiatives happening at SLDC. So again, I want to thank them for their support, but also pass it back to the board for any questions they may have around any of the work that's being done by Candid to support the ARPA programs. Sean Spencer.
Thank you. Just, when I see a flat fee and I don't see a lot of details around what we're actually paying for, it's hard for me to really understand, the cost of what we're paying Candid to do. I completely, see the process of the respondents to the proposal, a request for proposal, and changing marketing firms at this stage. I think it's really smart, and I'm glad that they got to the top of the list. But maybe if I could get some additional information on, what these funds are going to be used for, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for asking that question, Director Spencer. It's a great one. So of the $330,000 budget, of that, $150,000 would be for Candid's fee. So that's for our fee, flat fee to produce and to take calls all hours of the day, night, weekend, to be on call basically for SLDC for all of its support. We also are partnered with multiple St. Louis-based firms. So of that $180,000 that is not Candid fee, that is implementation costs. So those are hard costs like video production, photography, advertising, printing, promotional items, event planning support, subscriptions to Eventbrite, though basically anything that it would take to implement a marketing campaign. So of that, we think about $185,000 to $100,000 will be given to other St. Louis based firms that we have partnered with, and we've expanded our partnerships with them because we're going to focus on some more proactive digital storytelling and really showcase. We're at a point with a lot of the ARPA programs that we can showcase some of the success stories. So that's kind of how the fee breaks down. So 150 of it for Candid, 180,000 implementation spend.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Just in the future, it would be great to be able to break those costs down into a little bit more detail, so we have a better understanding of where it's all planning on going. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. I think Alderwoman Kara Spencer, your hand was raised first, and I want to recognize Director.
We can go in any order. I appreciate it. Thank you. I share the concerns about the lack of clarity here, or questions around that. I've asked this before, but it would be helpful to understand like the full scope. I feel like every other meeting we're reapproving funds to Candid. So there's just a lot of funds going to this agency. So I don't have, it would be helpful to have a full scope of not only what this particular resolution will be funding, but the full scope of what we've paid Candid and what the full return on those services are over time. It just is mind-blowing to me that we keep reconsidering additional funding. And it was brought to my attention that apparently in the last, I mean, I just have concerns about like the previous resolution with candidates proposed budget for the year already kind of, was this included in that? Furthermore, I have some concerns about the website itself. As I mentioned in my email to you, Director Richardson, when I was just looking at the developstlouis.org website, I could not navigate easily or intuitively to the North City Grant Program, the information there. I had to kind of Google separately in order to find those documents and those informations. It to me was a big missed opportunity to kind of make that easily navigable. And if Candy could speak on that, as well as the future of the website, who owns the sort of like updating of it? Is this a lifelong relationship that we're building here? Is there a way that SLDC is engaged in kind of putting some of that information out? I know there was a lot of typos on some of the Northside grant application information that was on the website, and I didn't understand if that was something that was the responsibility of Candid, SLDC, or if that was just straight from the applications of the grant folks, grant applications.
Yeah, so I will start by saying, we have general communications and marketing efforts that happen for SLDC, like the management of the website. Anything that we pay Candid for, we own the rights to. So it's property of an IP of SLDC and not Candid. In the event we decide to shift from Candid for any purpose, we would own and operate that information, and whoever would take over that process that information would be transferred and transitioned over to them. Again, this is specifically on the marketing of the various programs. As we talked about the Home STL, Scale Up STL, Mobilize STLs, Connect STL, the development of the new branding for the Monarch on MLK. This is what this particular resolution is requesting approval for. And anything unrelated to the ARPA funding, such as, again, the general just communications and follow-ups on the day-to-day activities of SLDC is paid through our operational budget. But I want to give Sarah and Becky the opportunity to respond as it relates to the structure of the website, which, has been significantly upgraded since Becky and Sarah's taken over the website. As you can see, it's more interactive than ever before. And also, what we'll talk about in our open session today is the LRA website, which they have created in partnership with our LRA team to make sure that LRA properties are more navigable as well, and creating these various landing pages for these programs. So I will pass it over to Sarah or Becky to respond to some of the questions from Alderwoman Kara Spencer, and pass it over to Director McBride as well. So Sarah and Becky.
Sure, thank you. To address your first question, Alderwoman Spencer, yes, our original budget was basically, we took what we assumed would be this year's fiscal budget for the entire agency and proposed in our original proposal for all of it. We were not aware that the ARPA would need to go back out to bid. And so when it came back in front of you before for the organizational marketing and communications, you did see that full budget that we had recommended. As you'll see in our proposal for the ARPA, we didn't change that budget. We weren't aware that that was the actual budget. We just assumed that based on the previous year spending that it would be a pretty relative amount. We again went for an open bid as we did in 2021, received the business in 2022, and have continued to perform for the organization for each of these years. So we are very much embedded with the organization, and we are very responsive. We work with the team every day, every single department. On the website, we do keep it as up to date as humanly possible. We are humans and there are errors. And as soon as we find one, we do certainly fix that, because we are very, very passionate about this organization, its brand, its reputation in the community. And we know that every little thing affects that. Regarding the typos in the North St. Louis project descriptions, that was a hard pull that the SLDC staff pulled straight out of the applications from the business owners themselves. Unfortunately, given the timing and all of the other things that we had to do, that was not something that we proofread. We will do that in the future, but it will then delay the public receiving that information because that will add an extra layer to it. But we are absolutely happy to do that. The grant we have added the call out back to the homepage, so it is very prominent on the homepage now. The homepage is a one-page scroll. There are numerous ways you can get into the information, whether you're a homeowner or a business owner, you want to develop property, community partner, you can go to the resources page if you know what you're looking for. So we have tried to build the website to accommodate as many folks in the way they may find information. We get lots of questions from the website that we field and we send through to the team at SLDC as well. So we really try to be a comprehensive partner and keep the website as up to date as humanly possible.
And as a part of the transparency around that, Candid does send a monthly report to the board every month on the activities that they are taking on, the KPIs that are produced, whether it's clicks on emails, on newsletters, visits to our social media sites, our impressions for every post that they make. So that information is shared on a monthly basis to the board around the outputs that are being created as a result of Candid's work. So the return on investment that you spoke to, Alderwoman, is really outlined within the monthly board reports that is sent to the directors on a monthly basis to ensure, again, that we are being granular about the impact. And that was a request from this board, is being able to have a monthly report being produced by the consultants that provide this ongoing operational support, such as Candid. So they have produced that in response to the board around the clarity and the impact, because we understand it's important to be diligent around how we leverage our funds. I would like to recognize.
I just want to say thank you. I appreciate that clarification. It was confusing to have this funding be part of the original budget and then be approving it now. So that explanation is appreciated. If we could just have the full scope of the full amounts paid to Candid over the years, I think it would be very helpful for me to just understand that full scope. And then there's been a request to have the boundaries for the economic justice indices, that interactive map be put back on the website. I think that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we will put that map back up now that we went back and verified the actual addresses for the businesses for the application. So we had to go through those 101 debriefs. Again, some of the addresses for the businesses were not, I think it was misleading around where the actual funding was being awarded versus where the business was headquartered. So we have went back and updated that information for the addresses. And so now that we feel confident in the addresses, we will re-upload that map in addition to a new list based on the approved resolutions by the board today. So that will happen over the next week to, again, upload that new list and get our GIS team to be able to produce a new interactive map that can be shared with the public in a matter of transparency. So I'll pass it over to Director McBride, and then we'll get to the open agenda.
Thank you. Thank you. And just wanted to follow up just on what I'm going to call them the Spencers have addressed. But if we can make it formal just to get the scope, and also, the directors, I think that this is probably in the phase 1 through 4 application that was submitted to us some months ago, but I don't have the bandwidth to go back and find it each time. So if we could do us that favor of appending it, so that then that short circuits 10 minutes of conversation. And so we could get ahead of that on not only this, but on these other resolutions, so that the directors memories are refreshed on what we've discussed the months previous. That's going to go a long way in efficiencies gained. So that's really my only comment. Thank you for your time.
No, appreciate it. So with that, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 969.
So move Gilbert.
Second, McBride.
With the motion in a second, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Karen Spencer,
Present.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director McBride,
Aye.
Director Sean Spencer,
Present.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With the majority present voting aye, the motion is approved for resolution number 24 SLDC 969. And we'll make sure that we get out that list, that full packet and scope for candidates' work, so the board will have it moving forward. So thank you all again for your comments. So we'll move forward to the open agenda. I think we've talked through the program update for North St. Louis City. So we will move over to our WMBE kickoff event, our Certified St. Louis. Stacy, do you want to give a quick update?
I gotta be quiet. Sir, good morning, board members. On September the 3rd, the certified STL was kicked off with Chairman Richardson, with representative from the mayor's office, with Jared Boyd, with Rodney Krim from the St. Louis Development Partnership. And we basically introduced certified STL to the community, what we will be doing. Certification opened up for individuals to start making applications that day. We had 17 firms come in and do their renewals that day during our kickoff. We had about 40 people in the building that just came in and wanted to learn about certification, what the steps would be and what that process would look like. And since we've opened our doors as of yesterday, I think we had, I sent that number over to Stephanie. Dang, it's not here sitting in front of me. Should be. We had about 65 individuals who have made application. We had about 14 new applications. We had a couple expansions, and the majority of the applicants were individuals trying to renew their certification. So we are still doing our digging through the weeds on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock for individuals just to walk in, learn about the certification process, understand what that looks like. And we're very excited. People are excited that they can come in, they can talk to us, they can call us, they can email us. So we are trying to meet those businesses exactly where they are and get them through the process. And then at the same time, we are continuing to work with Greater Inc. and our anchor institutions to talk with them about their supply of diversity and their opportunities for minorities to work in public and private institutions, and us continue to identify individuals to assist in that area also.
Thank you, Stacy. We can go to the next item on our open agenda, which is to save the date for the mayor's business luncheon. So Stephanie, pass it over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. You all should have received an email on the 17th of September about the mayor's business luncheon for this year. It will be held October 4th. Pre-lunch reception starts at 11. Luncheon starts at 12. In the email on the 17th, you should see a code to go ahead and get yourself registered for the event with our one complimentary seat for the event. And if you're interested in sponsoring or know organizations that might like to sponsor the board, there's information about that or sponsor the event, there's information about that in the email as well. Let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. And then the real quick on the downtown redevelopments, I know there was some press out around the next steps on some two major development projects downtown, one of which being the Railway Exchange and the other is Millennium Hotel. As it relates to the Railway Exchange, one of our development boards, LCRA, has moved forward with presenting an offer to acquire Railway Exchange to ensure that we are protecting the safety of the public on that project, as it's been sitting vacant and has been a nuisance property now for the last 5 to 10 years. And so LCRA is being proactive in taking action on those assets and holding those building owners accountable. As it relates to Millennium Hotel, it is our understanding we received direction from their owner and their broker that they are currently working to go under contract with a private entity in order to acquire the Millennium Hotel site. And so that, again, that is exciting to see new energy happening for those large scale development projects. We also have been in conversations with Greater St. Louis Inc. around the repurposing of the Rainwright building, which they have currently acquired in downtown St. Louis. And so these major assets are important for us to stabilize downtown and bring vibrancy back to the economic engine for, I would say, the state of Missouri, because we are driving growth into the front door to the state coming from the eastern port of our state itself. So really excited about those projects. And the last update, I know it's 10 a.m., is real quick, Shelton, if you can give a quick update on the LRA website, then we can move forward. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Chair Richardson. So really quickly, we're proud to announce that the LRA website was launched on the 3rd of September. Thank you for Candid and definitely the SLDC members who really worked hard to take all of collectively the years in putting this into a digital first agency. As I think you all know, LRA is the oldest land bank in the entire nation. And so with our efforts, we've really been intentional about engaging with the community and just really demystifying LRA, who it is, why LRA is important, what a land bank is, what it does, how it functions, and certainly getting some ease to the community, the development community and owners in their ability to be informed about searching for LRA property, getting access to LRA property, and also ultimately going through the process of applying for and getting reviewed by the LRA Commission to be awarded and closing on LRA property for development. So exciting news. We are also working to transform not just this stage of the website, but really, again, continuing the efforts of becoming a digital first agency and are working towards the next phase of this, which we hope to get in 2025, which will be automation, where people can actually go to the website, look for an LRA property, schedule a time to visit the property, submit their application and their offer online. Again, really just streamlining the process and helping us to accelerate the work, as we've got approximately 9,000 properties in our stewardship and moving forward with development in St. Louis. So.
Yeah, thank you, Shelton, for that update. And again, thank you, Candid, for creating that website. That's, again, will provide opportunities for the community to be educated on LRA and the steps to acquiring those important assets and properties that are being activated. So with that, the next scheduled board meeting is Thursday, October 17th. That will be held via Zoom. I would like to reach out to the board members to poll us on potentially holding an in-person session before the end of the year, maybe in November or December. I think it'd be good just for all of us to be in a room together. I don't think we've all had the opportunity to see each other face to face in one setting. So it'd be great to have some of these in-person meetings either in November or December. So I'll send out a poll to the board of directors to identify which one of those sessions works best for an in-person board meeting. Again, it will be recorded. It will be open to the public via Zoom and in person, but just wanted to ensure that we had a chance to meet in person as a group. So with that, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Gilbert.
Second, Arnold.
Motion in a second. The meeting has been adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. See you next month.